Hey everyone, welcome to another episode of Unmedicated Disaster. My name's Al,
And I am Danielle.
and today we're going to have a fun subject full of joy and amusement and laughs and
Stop lying to the
smiles.
people.
Yeah,
Stop lying to them.
yeah. No, we're going to talk about why old white men like to ruin everything in the United States.
And that's pretty general. So we're gonna narrow that down to Republicans.
Pretty much.
Um, and if anybody who happens to be listening to this identifies as a Republican, stop. And it's not like, oh, we don't want to offend you. No, we just don't want you listening.
Yeah.
We don't like you,
And we don't care if you get offended.
we don't want you around. I personally hope that you suffer every day for the rest of your life.
Yeah. And who knew that we were going to talk about, political stuff so early on in our life of a podcast of, a white woman and a Hispanic man.
Oh, I don't know because the rights of all of us, these people combined, have been, I don't know, under attack
Yeah.
incessantly since ever.
Yeah.
So,
And what feels to be like the biggest attack right now is, of course, Roe v. Wade. Now, before any of you, jump on us, oh, it's just overturning the stuff so the states can choose. It was, one, never about the states.
and nobody should be making any choices except for the woman involved and her medical providers.
Yeah. And let's cut off any sort of useless argument that you can try, whether it's religion. It's not religion. Do your fucking research. Okay.
Well, it doesn't matter if it is religion because
It's not religion.
We don't live in a theocracy, friends.
But that's the thing. It's not religion. They use religion as an excuse as to why women shouldn't abort babies. But
They're not babies; they're fetuses. We need to change
whatever.
that narrative.
Whatever.
No,
Abort whatever it is. It's in their body. It is their choice, and it is their decision whether it is a baby or not. Now we know
Well,
that babies rarely get aborted. Less than 1%.
We got to stop the use of the word baby because that is something that these people, mainly the Republicans,
Yeah.
are using to vilify these women and use it as an excuse.
Yeah.
Because referring to a fetus as a baby is not accurate.
At what point do you think a fetus becomes a baby? When it's born?
When it's ready to be born and when
Okay.
it comes on out.
Okay.
Until then, it is a fetus.
Right.
And saying, oh, you're aborting babies. Well, that conjures up the image of a baby just getting aborted. And that's not what's happening.
Well, even then in Roe v. Wade, if you have a miscarriage and a baby comes out of you and it comes out in still life, it is still considered, a murder. So if a woman has miscarriage,
no, that's not Roe v. Wade. That's what these crazy Republicans are trying to do.
Well, that's what,
states.
but they're doing that. Once Roe v. Wade goes down, they will put to law that if a woman, for whatever reason, has a miscarriage and the now no longer fetus but a baby comes out dead, the woman can be charged for murder.
Yep. And they're trying to make
so I feel like it doesn't matter whether it is a fetus or a baby. It's still, you're still in the wrong, no matter what women do.
The point being is that when people talk about Roe v. Wade and how it's bad, they refer to it as, oh, well, you're killing babies.
No,
you're not. No, you're not. You're not killing a baby.
Yeah, you're killing life, I think, is what I
no.
Usually
They say
hear.
Babies, and it's not that thing.
Yeah.
I'm not even going to give it the dignity of calling it a person.
Right.
That thing cannot survive without the host.
Yeah.
And we're going to use those terminology, not mom and baby, because she ain't a mom and it's not a baby.
Right.
It is literally a clump of cells that cannot survive on its own.
Yeah.
That is, mooching off of the woman's body.
Okay.
Or the person with the uterus's body. For ease, I'm going to be honest, I'm probably going to keep saying woman. I will try to do my best not to. Because I know that it's,
right.
That's not entirely accurate. But, in that verbiage, they use that to make other people, think, oh my God, they're killing baby. It's not a baby.
Right.
It's not a baby.
Okay, so even if they take away the word baby, right, they'll still say you are killing a life. You're taking a life away.
And that life
right.
cannot live without being inside of that woman's body.
Or the host.
It's a parasite.
Yeah. Wow.
It's what it is. It is It is leeching off of that person's body.
Mhm.
And by saying things like, oh, it's a life, or oh, it's all words being used to manipulate people to try to get them to agree with their argument.
Yeah.
And it is bullshit. And I think that there's what was the situation I gave you. These people will argue that life begins at conception. A fetus or an embryo, that is a life to these people.
Yeah.
Okay.
With no scientific
Yeah, there's no
by the way.
background. They're
There's
just
no
making this
backup.
shit up. So, what was the situation I presented to you? There is a building burning down.
Mhm.
Building is burning down. There is a living, breathing, in a diaper baby. A baby there in this burning
It's a
building.
couple months old.
It
Whatever.
can even be a newborn. Doesn't
Sure.
matter. It's a baby.
Right.
A baby sitting here
Yeah.
in its little blanket. And over here is a tank with 500 embryos. 500 embryos.
Yeah.
Building's burning down. You can save one. Which one do you save?
Yeah.
If you are a pro-life, I call them pro-birth because they're not pro-life.
They're not pro-life. Absolutely.
But if you were a pro-life person,
yeah,
and you're presented with that scenario,
mm-hmm.
the answer should be the 500 embryos every time.
Yeah.
Every time. Because to that pro-life person, their argument is that is 500 lives. Yeah. 500 lives.
And I'm going to be honest, I don't think it presents that strong of an argument because I think these same people that are pro-life will still choose the fetuses over...
No, they won't.
I'm sure they will.
No, they won't.
Are you kidding
They might say that just out of argument, but nobody's going to choose those because they're going to choose the living, breathing, crying, alive baby.
And then here's another thing they're going to ask you. They're going to ask you, well, is the baby a female or a male?
I mean, that's a whole other...
That's how much these, mostly Republicans, I will say, are feeling about this kind of thing. So
well, that's because an unborn child still has the chance to come out as a male.
Exactly.
Excuse me, a healthy, able-bodied,
white,
cisgendered, heterosexual male.
Yes.
Whereas a baby or a child or a person that's already born, mm-hmm. you already know what you're going to get.
Yeah.
Yeah. Does the word eugenics mean anything to anybody?
So I'm sure everybody knows where you stand on this, but as a male, not being white, but as a male nonetheless, this shouldn't be up for an argument. This shouldn't be up for a decision. This should have been this is a woman's body and she does what with her body as she pleases. Period. No ins, ifs, or buts, nothing. It's a woman's body and she decides what to do. And the thing that a lot of people of color, especially in the Black community, that echoes year after year after year after year is that people need to mind their own goddamn business. If it's not your body, why the fuck do you care? If you want to have a baby, have one. Stop looking at other people and saying, I don't want you to do this because I feel uncomfortable. It's not your fucking business. It's not your body. Quit it. Leave it for the professionals, the scientists, the researchers, and the doctors who are like, I'm comfortable with this because they know logic exists and they know that, hey, this woman doesn't want this. And especially in the United States with how hard it is to grow a child into being a full-size adult, the money, the time that it takes, and the little to no support that women get nowadays.
There's no support from the government in any way.
And you know where that no support's coming from? You guessed it,
the
Republicans.
And at this point, a dead body has more rights than a actual woman. Because you can't just go to a dead body and take organs and parts and do what you want with it.
Not unless
they gave explicit consent.
Mm-hmm.
But a woman, you're going to tell her what she can and cannot do with her own body. Or alternately, people who need, a kidney transplant or blood transfusion. Mm-hmm. You can't force somebody to give that up because that's their body. Right. You don't have a right to that.
Yeah.
But that's not the case for women.
And for the people that come crying with the Constitution of the United States, again, do your fucking research because the Constitution should have changed several times by
Yeah,
now.
quite a few times by now.
Yeah.
Because it was intended to be revisited, ripped up, and rewritten every 20 years, I believe.
And the best part about this is that all those fuckers, if you need me to spell it out for you, here it is, okay? Fuckers in the Supreme Court know this. And yet they still argue it because they're like, well, the Constitution should have never stayed the same. So why are you arguing something that you know for a fact that should have changed? Should have changed every, 25 years or something
even
like
better, they all said that Roe v. Wade was settled law. It was an amendment. That's just the end of it.
Every single one of them.
So why are we coming back to it now, you guys?
Right.
I know the answer.
Specifically, the two that we're all, putting our eyes on because they're the most recent ones because we know who put them there in power.
Mm-hmm.
The two of you specifically stated that Roe v. Wade was precedent.
Yeah.
It was not going to change.
Mm-hmm.
They weren't going to touch it. They were not even going to look at it. They were just like, that's it. It's law. And those two same people suddenly had a change of heart. I wonder why.
Well, yeah, and the one says we need to fulfill the domestic demand for infants. That tells you everything you need to do. Are women now like livestock and breeding animals for you?
Well, I mean,
because
livestock don't get to choose, so I guess so.
Last time I checked, there's over 100,000 children in foster care that need homes.
Yeah.
But you don't want, a child. You want a brand new little baby.
Pretty much.
Yeah.
They don't want something that already has fucked up
and
issues because they are conscious and aware of the life that they've been brought into.
Yeah. And last time I checked, we don't birth babies for you to sell them to the highest bidder.
No.
It's not how that's supposed to work.
Yeah.
But
instead of fixing the problem, which is maternal care, making sure that these women get the money that they need for help,
or have health care, or can provide
or
formula, which is a joke right now,
or all of the above. Mm-hmm. Instead of doing that the correct way, what they want to do is make up an excuse to not help them, and instead basically focus on their own agenda.
Yeah, because they're not pro-life; they are pro-birth. And I have no doubt that something that plays into it is, and there was a study, and I would have to look up where to cite it, that says that white people will be a minority in the country relatively soon. So why do you think all these states with, Republicans in charge and long histories of racism all of a sudden want women to be forced to carry babies? Why do you think they want to lower the age of consent or the age that girls can get married at?
Disgusting.
Why do you think that they have no protections for women and little girls who get raped or who get assaulted by even family members? Because they don't care. They just want a whole bunch of white babies so they can keep, churning them out and staying in power.
Out of curiosity, didn't white people start off as a minority in this country?
Yeah, but they don't acknowledge that part.
Oh, curious.
Yeah, we don't talk about that. Yeah. And never mind the fact that, women can't get any justice for when they're raped, assaulted, whatever it may be now. Well, what do we think is going to happen down the line? There's no repercussions as it is. And now women will be forced to carry their rapist babies. Their rapists will be able to sue the woman to get visitation. The families of the rapists will be able to sue to get visitation and force her to carry this baby. So that's lovely. And then people say things like, well, don't have sex. Well, we were just talking about rape, but what do you think would happen if women just were like, you know what? We're just going to stop having sex. We're not going to have sex with any men.
Well, we all know men can't handle that because they're a bunch of babies.
They're going to just start raping women. Because guess what? Again, no repercussions. They're just going to start raping women to get what they want.
And before any of you is like, there's repercussions for rape, I was like, there's never been any repercussions for rape unless, of course, you're a person of color.
Oh,
and
yeah,
in that case, yeah, there
you don't even have to be guilty.
But all you have to do is be a white kid in college, and suddenly we have to think about his future and not the woman that he raped.
Yeah. There was a beautiful comment on a TikTok that I sent to you, and it was a man who, I believe was a white man, of course, who commented on somebody's video about these issues and said, well, if rape victims are so traumatized, I guess we might as well kill them so they don't have to deal with that trauma. That's not very pro-life of you.
Because it's never been about pro-life.
Yeah. It's all about controlling women.
Yeah.
And if you have an abortion or a miscarriage or whatever it is, and please, it's not going to be medical professionals who were determining whether it was a legitimate miscarriage. It's just going to be a bunch of men that were appointed by a governor.
Yeah.
You will then be guilty of a felony. And you know what happens when you're found guilty of a felony?
You can't vote.
Can't vote.
Wow, shocker.
Look how that all folds together.
Yeah.
Isn't that interesting? Yeah. Isn't that interesting?
But yeah, the very first thing that comes to mind when someone goes, well, I'm pro-life, and I say, well, who did you vote for? And they go, I vote Republican. You're clearly not. And it's not because I have an agenda where Republicans are all bad. But it seems to me like Republicans are the only ones that are attacking women's health. They're attacking people of color.
Republicans have no interest in the well-being of Americans.
No, absolutely not.
Not one at all.
Unless you're white.
And even then,
because
they don't give a shit about anybody.
All women end up, suffering on their control.
If Republicans cared about Americans,
yeah,
they would want things like health care so Americans can be healthy.
Right.
They'd want things like, I don't know, capping gasoline prices, like the Democrats tried to do. But the Republicans decided, you know what? No, we're going to call that socialism because we're getting paid by the oil companies. And then they'll turn around and point fingers at the Democrats for not doing anything when it was them who blocked any type of measure.
I mean, I can go to the gym tomorrow where, of course, they play Fox News. They play all news channels, unfortunately, but Fox News is one of them. And I can tell you right now what the headline's going to be. Oh, gasoline at its most under Biden's control. Instead of actually saying the reason why it's this
Biden's
high.
People were trying to bring it down, but we decided we're not going to let that happen.
And don't get me wrong. So I understand Democrats, Republicans. And there are TikToks out there that I've seen that also play onto this, where they're like, oh, well, people always say, I don't vote because they're both bad. And okay, let's
the
go
false
with that
equivalence.
Let's go with that argument. Both are bad. So what do? You either don't vote, congratulations, you're not helping, or you're still undecided. Okay, well, which one should I vote for? How about you vote when you have only two options and you have to vote for one of these options instead of the people who think that not voting is the best idea ever. Congratulations, you're probably worse than all of them. But if you're like, okay, well, I'm confused. Who do I vote for? If you have two bads, vote for the one that's least bad at the very minimum. I'm not saying that Democrats are
garbage too.
Are great. They're not. They're not.
But the false equivalence, and you can say, oh, well, they both do bad things. Okay, well, here, let me lay it out for you.
Right.
A Democrat, let's say, they did something bad. They parked in a no parking zone.
Right.
They parked in a no parking zone. That's bad.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Meanwhile, the Republican is literally like committing a genocide, enslaving Jewish people,
raping
women, running babies over with a steamroller.
Right.
And you're going to sit there and tell me that's the same?
That's how people are.
But that's
nowadays.
The thought, and it's insane to me that nobody has these critical thinking skills. Yeah. And please don't get me wrong. Democrats are garbage. Would Joe Biden be my first vote for a president?
He wouldn't even be my second vote.
No. But when it comes down to it, when the fate of our fucking democracy, our country is on the line, you can't, I'm going to vote my conscience. Fuck you. Fuck you, man. Imagine having the privilege to throw away your vote like it doesn't matter. I get it. We need an overhaul of this whole fucking system.
Yeah, we do.
But to sit here looking at the country as it is and say, I'm going to vote third party because I need to sleep better at night with my conscience. How does it feel to know that you just are looking at people who are in danger women who are in danger of losing their, their right to take care of their own body, people of color who are being gunned down in the streets, both by private
It
citizens
happened, last week?
yeah, by private citizens and the police. Children who can't get medical care, who are starving. People who have to live on the streets. You are looking at these people and saying your vote for your conscience is more important than at least attempting to do something to help them. Imagine having that kind of privilege. And I can't wrap my head around it. And it infuriates me. Absolutely infuriates me. Did I want to go out there and vote for somebody I thought was better than Joe Biden? Sure.
Absolutely.
And guess what? I voted for Joe Biden because, God damn it, we could not possibly survive another 4 years of what we had before. And
it's still an option. By the way, it's still in our future. It's not like that choice was gone and you don't have to worry about it anymore.
And I guess what really just, I don't even know, the way things have gone with this country. I look back at the people in 2016 when all this shit started. And when I looked at them and I said, you are a horrible person if you vote for this. If you vote for this man who is out there saying all these horrible things and being the way who has sexually assaulted people, who has just been an awful person, and the things he's saying and the things he's
gotten away with money,
everything, but like enabling these racists and this hatred and the bigotry. If you vote for that person, you are as bad as they are. And they get all offended and say, no, I'm not. I just like his politics. Well, those are his politics.
Those are his politics. And those are his rules. The reason things are happening is because of him. You gave him a direct access to do the kind of shit that's happening right now. You're the one who gave him voice. He didn't have a voice. He was looking for a voice, and he was dependent on the people who voted for him to give him that voice, so that he can go to all these people who are white supremacists, neo-Nazis, whatever the fuck you want to call them. If you want to call them super right Republicans, there you go. You got them. It's all the same people. Whatever name you want to call them, they're all the same. Guess what? You gave them a voice, and since then, people have been dying. Laws are being changed that put women at risk, and the economy isn't doing any better. Wait a second. Didn't Trump help these large businesses out by giving them the tax break?
But that's nothing new.
No, it's nothing new. But here's what gets me is that they got the tax break, and yet people are still suffering. And yet everything is 10 times more expensive. And yet all these companies continue to have a massive profit, and everyone is still struggling. It's like it didn't work, did it?
Because American people have been conditioned by these fucking lunatics to believe that the people causing the problem are the low-income people. They're stealing from the government. They're living off the system. They're the problem. They're the reason you're having all this. And guess what? It's not. Because right now, gas prices are at a record high. And barrels of oil are low as hell. And the only reason those prices are high is because profits. Because Republicans are being, like we said, paid by the oil companies.
Yep.
Republicans want to build pipelines. They want to drill for oil. They want oil, oil, oil.
Even though they've been given warnings
and
not
guess
to.
what? The Democrats want clean energy. We want wind power. We want solar power. We want electric cars. But that hurts the oil industry. So here we are. But to circle back to my original point about all you motherfuckers who voted for Trump. When you looked at me in 2016 and said, stop being dramatic. That's not going to happen. Guess what? It's all fucking happening. And it's your fault. And again, I hope you suffer. Maybe it won't happen immediately, but I want you to suffer. If you believe in hell, I hope that's where you end up. Yeah. And if you don't, I hope your spirit wanders aimlessly for eternity and you never find peace.
And I love how people just hide behind the excuses. Oh, well, he's religious. He prays on God. All this bullshit.
No, he's not. He fucking played every one of you. He don't believe the shit he's spewing.
Well, all they had to do was say the magic word, which was God and Jesus. Yeah. And people heard it to him like a bunch of sheep.
Well, guess what? Donald Trump is about as Christian as this fucking guy standing on this pedestal. And honestly, he probably has closer ties to Jesus than him.
Christian?
I didn't think so. But you'll say, Donald Trump's a good Christian. He believes in God and Jesus. That man doesn't fucking go to church unless there's a TV camera in his face. And guess what? You're going to say, oh, Donald Trump. Meanwhile, and again, Joe Biden, we're not his biggest fans.
No.
But when he sworn in, he brought his 100-and-some-year-old family Bible that has been in his family for generations because he is a good Catholic man. He's Catholic, I believe. And he actually goes to church and he actually practices that religion. But Donald fucking Trump and his inbred shits of the kids, those are the ones that those are the good Christians? Mm-hmm. And then they turn around and be like, well, what about Hunter Biden? What about Hunter Biden? He's a private citizen. Just because fucking Trump dragged his whole family in there to make a goddamn profit doesn't mean everybody else does.
But again, that's an excuse because all his children all did the exact same shit, if not worse.
Yeah.
They all profited it.
But the point being,
what's the problem?
Hunter Biden is a private citizen. He is not a government official. He is a private citizen like you or me.
Just
what
the same
the
as
fuck
his
does
kids.
his laptop have to do with shit?
It doesn't.
It's all
nothing.
bullshit anyway.
It has
by the way,
nothing to do with his laptop because that's the only thing that they have towards them.
But
now,
it's not even a real thing.
It's not. But it's still, even if it's not a real thing, Republicans use it to gather a rally cry because there's nothing more pathetic than a herd of sheep going straight off a fucking hill.
And that's literally what this
is. All in the name of Jesus.
And I think, and people say like, oh, well, not all the Republicans are bad. Yes, they are. Literally, if you at this day and age, if you identify as a Republican, you are complicit in all of this. And you can say, oh, well, this one, or, Mitt Romney seems like a nice guy. And he votes with this bullshit every time. At no point did any of these Republicans stand up and say, this is not what our party is about. This is not what our country is about. This is not what our government is about. Not one of them took a stand.
And I think there have been a few who have said, this is not what the party is about.
Yeah, it was John McCain, and he's dead.
No.
And Liz Cheney, but she's in the House.
Private citizens who have also said this, and I've seen them online going, there's a mistake. And it's just because they literally did the bare minimum. They literally opened their eyes and they said, this is kind of fucked up, don't you think? That's literally all it is. They literally just opened their eyes.
If they identify as a Republican, right now, today, if you identify as a Republican, you are complicit and you are just as bad as anyone else. Because nobody who is a good person would say, I am a Republican right now, looking at what that party has done. You are not a good person.
You're not. And I see people at one after the other, whether it's on TikTok, whether it's on Twitter, even veterans that are heartbroken. And I can never put myself in that position. Mm-hmm. I'm not a veteran. I've never gone to war. I've never enlisted. But the heartbreak that they show because the America that they defended has lost its case. The flag that they wore so proudly
is now a hate symbol.
It's a hate symbol, literally. You have the entire world laughing at you guys.
It's not even laughing. It's laughing, but also they're looking in horror, like what the fuck happened?
Because we're supposed to, we're
supposed to be the greatest nation in the world.
We're not a great nation, and that's what they're so sold on. They're so prideful that America's the greatest nation that ever existed. Maybe at one point. Maybe. That's not yes, it was.
That's a big maybe.
Maybe it was at one point, and you guys are so terrified of losing that grip, that existence that probably never was.
Yeah.
But it was pushed into your head since you were a kid, saying this is the greatest nation that's ever existed, and it's not. And that's what you fear so much of losing. Because in the end, you're cowards. That's what it is. You're scared of losing that power of this is the greatest nation that ever existed. It wasn't. It isn't. And we've been getting further and further away from that great nation that we all want to talk about.
Our education is shit. We have like one of the highest mortality rates for mothers. We have more gun violence than anybody. We have more people who are starving and homeless. We are a third world nation wearing a Gucci belt. That is the most apt description I have ever heard. Because there are countries that we look down on, that we say, oh, well, they're just, they're backwards, they're third world countries, that have health care, that people can go to school, that mothers aren't dying in childbirth, that people aren't on the streets, people aren't starving. And we look down on them.
And it's a matter of just not doing the research. It's not like this is hidden information, guys. This isn't something where you have to go to college, spend 3 years in order to unlock this,
It's right in front of your
it's
face.
all you have to do is just fucking Google. Go online. You have a fucking phone. Google it. It is that simple. The information's there. You refuse to see it.
Mm-hmm.
And you sell this, I don't know what to call it, but they sell this product that's called, oh, the far left. It's never been the far left. We've never even gone far left.
Yeah,
This is
we
just,
are on even like our Democrats
Yeah.
today, even our most liberal. If we talk Bernie Sanders in any other country, he's a centrist. He's not even considered a liberal because that's how far behind the
Yeah.
curve we are.
But here's the thing. That's what's funny. They keep saying we're going so far left, but then you look at the right and how, okay, we stand for America. Suddenly, oh, well, we don't stand for America. We stand for white America. Oh, we don't stand for every American. We only stand for, white men.
Who are also straight and cisgender.
And it keeps going further and further and further back. But nevertheless, the entire time that they're saying that they're going so back into the fucking dark ages, it seems now, they keep pointing to the left and going, look how far left they are.
Yeah,
It's literally because
you're moving the
fucking
right so much further. And what does the left want? Basic, respect for other humans. We'd love that.
Healthcare, like all
healthcare,
these third world countries
yeah,
have.
and people like, oh my God, like healthcare. Well, our queen, Katie Porter, breaks that down real well. We'll link
if
that,
you haven't heard of her,
for you to watch.
Maybe look up some of her videos so
because she
teach you a
breaks
little
it down.
something.
Medicare for all would save so much money because Medicare doesn't sponsor sports arenas and pay CEOs billions of dollars.
Don't.
And when people say, oh, well, look at Canada. Canada's healthcare. Honey, Canada's healthcare is fantastic. And if you do any ounce of research on that, you will be able to find articles written by the propaganda person who spread the lies about Canadian healthcare to scare Americans.
Isn't that nice?
That person denounced what they did. And they said, oh my God, I have brainwashed these people and ruined any chance at healthcare in the United States. And then you say, oh, well, in Canada, yeah, sure, it's socialized, you don't have to pay, but it takes forever to get in. Bullshit. As we speak right now, recording this, a friend of a friend, I'll call her a friend because I've been acquainted with her for many years. She is not from Canada. She got her citizenship very recently. And then she had a very severe health problem. I don't want to go into her personal details.
Right.
But she's been hospitalized now for, I think, a couple weeks. She needed emergency surgery, all this care, and guess what?
Oof.
She got in immediately. They took care of her immediately, and she will not end up paying a dime.
Oh, that's right. She's in fucking Canada because this entire time, I'm like, oh, the bills. She spent more than one day in the hospital. I'm like,
and she doesn't have to worry about that. And she wasn't a natural-born citizen. She just, she did get her citizenship eventually, but she wasn't born here and born and raised a true Canadian. No. But she still took care of her because a person inside their borders needs to be treated with the respect that any human should be treated with. And we don't get that here.
Yeah, but every time we say healthcare, the Republicans instantly start ringing an alarm.
You just want something for free. How are we going to pay for it? Oh,
like how every other country does it.
Yeah, and it's been proven that it can be paid for easily. But you know what we can't do? We can't keep giving billions of dollars away to billionaires to give them more billions of dollars. We can't keep throwing money into bullshit just to line pockets of people who are already rich.
This is grammar, or if you don't know what grammar school is, this is middle school math, where people go, well, these other countries can do it because look at the size of them and look at the size compared to us. Size,
in
congratulations, this case, doesn't matter.
Yeah.
Wow,
it
look
is
at that.
Per capita. You can look that up. That's how that works.
It doesn't matter whether you have 1, 10, 10,000, 10 million, or 10 billion people. If everybody pays their share of taxes, guess what? There's enough money to make sure that everybody's taken care of. It's simple.
Somebody did
math.
the math, and it was like if you taxed the billionaires in the United States, and I think it was something ludicrously low. I want to say it was like 2 to 5%, which, spoiler alert, is far less than you're paying in taxes. Everybody could have free health care. Everyone. Free healthcare. No questions asked. But since they don't pay any taxes, there you go. And then the other side of who's going to pay for it? Our taxes.
Yeah.
Our tax
What
money.
they should be doing.
Our tax money should be being spent to care for our citizens. We don't need to have the largest military budget in the world by tenfold. That's fucking ridiculous. Fucking ridiculous. It's unnecessary. But if you took a sliver of that, we could have healthcare. We could have a basic income for everybody. We could have free public college. We could have all these things. And speaking of college student loans, what a fucking joke that is.
But God forbid, we forgive these loans. Oh my God, we would go into so much debt.
It cost the government and the companies more money to service the loans than the loans are worth. The only reason those loans still exist is to keep people in this unbeatable debt. That is the only reason they exist. And then, again, since we're Americans, we have been culturally trained to say things like, well, I had to pay my student loans. It's not right if they don't have to pay theirs. Because you're a bunch of selfish fucking pricks. I don't care if I pay my student loan and then the kids coming after me don't have to pay that. They don't have to be saddled with the same shit that I had to live through.
You know what I would say? I would say
good for them.
Thank
good
fucking God
they
it's
figured
changing.
it out.
Here's a situation that I'm going to compare to. When I was in college, my program was so far up Schitt's Creek that I felt like there would be no saving whatsoever, no saving. And I knew the amount of money that me and every student beside me was paying. And what we were getting for it? Shit. So you know what we did? We stood up. Because it's our basic fucking rights. If something doesn't look right, you question it. And that's what we did. And I almost got in trouble. I almost got expelled for doing
the right thing.
For having my rights to question things and be like, something's wrong and I don't feel like paying for shit. Would you go out there and pay $25,000, $75,000 for a fucking car? An investment is what it is. And you get a fucking lemon and you're going to be okay with it? I wasn't. So you know what I did? I fought and I fought and I fought until I knew that someone was going to listen and shit was going to be done. And guess what? Eventually, shit was done. It wasn't for me. I was already graduating by the time shit got done. But at least every student behind me is now getting what they promised they would get. The kind of education they said they were going to give. Now those kids are getting it. I didn't reap of that, but at least they did.
But that's the problem with Americans. They have been trained that they are so superior, that they're so special, that they only I know they're not. They only care about themselves. And if you look right now at the generations that exist in America, we're millennials, then you have our Gen Z kids coming up behind us. And then you have the Gen X, the boomers that came before. Mm-hmm. Never in my life have I met more selfish, entitled, nasty people than the old people today. And it's not every single one of them.
No.
But to generalize, they are the worst people I've ever encountered. They don't give a shit about the world they're leaving behind for their kids and their grandchildren.
Absolutely not.
They don't care about a goddamn thing except their own comfort, their own pockets, and their own little fun times they're having. But then I look at Gen Z. I look at these entitled brats that are coming up, and they are some of the most generous and open-minded and just understanding people.
Yeah.
They can look at a situation and they don't think, how can I make this benefit me? They look at it and say, how can I make this benefit my community? How can I make this benefit this group of people? Because they have seen what has happened before them, and they are making this commitment to not be like that. And honestly, without them, I would have no hope for the future. And us millennials,
it's still bleak because these people refuse to give up power.
That's the problem. You have a bunch of 86-year-old people making laws that, kids these days are going to have to live with. They're going to have to handle the consequences.
They don't even know how life works. They still think that life works the same way that it worked 20, 30, 50 years ago.
Yeah, and it does not.
It does not. And you have to catch up with the program. Because if you can't catch up with the program,
move on.
get the fuck out.
And
leave it for someone who can.
And the exception to the old people in government rule will forever be Bernie Sanders. That man has walked the walk before the walk was even something you could be walking. And he has stood by his beliefs and has moved with the times. Has he fucked up? Sure. But guess what? He has his convictions, and the young people flock to him because he's the only adult, the only older person who seems to be on their side. And it's going to be people.
It's fucking sad.
Yeah. And it's going to be people like Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez and Ilhan Omar. Sorry, I'm terrible with names.
So
but that group, the Stacey Abramses, like these are all women.
And these new up and coming women that are right now fighting right now to get a seat. And they're not getting a seat for themselves. These women, and it's sad that it's mostly women and not men out there, because the last young man that went into office was a fucking Republican who was like, oh yeah, fuck women and fuck people of color. Oh, but by the way, the old people wanted me to join an orgy. Yeah, that's the youngest. That's the youngest that's coming into. And there
are some really good young men. No, but they
need to step up. Mm-hmm. They need to be just as loud as AOC and Omar and every other woman out there. You need to be just as loud.
Yeah,
you're not. And so, even if there are Democrats out there that are fighting for the rights of people that understand, okay, this is where we should be, and we need to stop these old white men from ruining this country even further.
And that's not to excuse the horrific white women of the Republican Party. But I want you to suffer more than anybody, but I digress.
But here's the thing. You're not being loud enough, because all I hear is these women busting their ass
while the men sit back and just
every single day trying to fight for people,
because it doesn't concern men, and that's for Democrats, Republicans, whatever.
And this goes out to men.
They feel like it doesn't concern.
I'm sorry.
Them.
This goes out to men. Okay, with the whole how our country's moving and Roe v. Wade and everything. You need to fucking step up, because if you think that this doesn't concern you, if you think that this does not affect you, boy, you have something coming, because it is going to affect you. And when women decide to turn against men, you have no one but yourselves to blame. And I know not all men. There are men out there who I've seen who will stand up for women left and right. I see you. I've heard you. Keep being loud, and make sure you tell all your friends to be loud with you, because do not. The worst thing you could do is be complacent with it, or not say something, or not stand up. Because guess what? You're giving these awful people a bigger voice. Stand up. Be a man. If you want to talk about being a man, be a man and stand up to all these other men and say, no, that's not right. Leave her alone. Protect the woman if you have to. But guess what? If you don't do, you're going to suffer a bigger consequence. And I'm telling you, you don't want to go there. I've never experienced it. I don't have to experience it. It's one of those common fucking sense that it's not going to lead to where you want to be. Where the rules are going right now, it's not going to get you what you want. It's going to get you a huge battle, and you're going to lose. And guess what? It's going to be 10 times harder to get back to where you want to be, to where you wish things were going to be. It's going to be way harder. And I know men. They're not going to fight that hard for it. You're going to end up losing. So this goes to every man out there. Get your fucking shit together. Protect women. And make your voices heard. Because right now, men, you're not looking very well. You're looking pretty shitty.
And not all men.
Not all men. I said that.
Unfortunately, it's the vast majority of them. Because even the good men, and this is something that we've talked about privately the other day. When it comes to men and you hear all these awful things men do, the good men will say things like, well, that's not me. Instead of actually doing anything to help, stop the bad men. They just are like, it's not me. It's not me. Okay. Well, what are you doing to fix it? What are you doing to help? Nothing.
Yeah. Standing alone to the side, just saying,
it's not me, it's not my problem.
But standing alone to the side and saying, well, I'm not the one doing it, and then just not doing anything for it, you're no better.
You're complicit. You are complacent and complicit, and it is not okay. And
Maybe this is why I don't have a lot of male friends,
Yeah, this is
because
exactly why you don't have a lot of male friends.
I can't stomach just the sight
Yeah.
of some guys sometimes.
Yeah.
I can't. I really can't. I just look at them and I go like, you know what? I'd rather jump off a bridge than keep talking to you, son.
Yeah. And it's terrible because like you don't ever want to generalize a group.
You know,
But if they all walk like a duck and quack like a duck, I'm going to assume that's a whole flock of ducks. And
that's what America
unfortunately, that's
keeps
what it
doing
looks
right
like.
now.
Yeah.
That's all America keeps doing is they keep flocking with the one side because they think, oh yeah, they're very loud, so clearly they must be right because we can't think for ourselves.
Yeah. And the whole idea that there's been a lot of protesting lately, obviously, about all sorts of things. And you will have the good patriotic Americans who say things like, "Shut the fuck up. I'm going to run you over with my truck. It's okay if the police shoot at you." Because those good Americans think that the right to protest isn't as important as any of those other rights. Yet, when those people decide to, partake in an insurrection and break into the Capitol building with the goal of assassinating members of Congress and the vice president, that's just polite political discourse.
Nobody was gun happy or trigger happy at that point.
Yeah, isn't that weird how that happened? And it goes back to that false equivalence where you can have however many white people break into a government building with the intention of lynching government officials and have it be deemed reasonable political discourse. But people who are taking to the streets saying, "Can police please stop murdering black people in a peaceful manner?" It's those people who are peacefully protesting issues. Those ones are the bad Americans. Those ones are the problem. Those ones are the terror threats to our way of life. Not the people who, again, broke into a government building with the intention of assassinating members of Congress. Because the American people are stupid. Because they will allow this false equivalence to exist and say things like, both sides are bad, or there are good people on both sides. I argue that no, there are not. And I will always argue that because one group is protesting for rights and liberties and basic, the right to live. And the other group thought it would be fun to start a riot because, oh, I don't know, they're not allowed to, fly Nazi flags and just blatantly murder people in the street with their firearms. Because they're looking for the right to push others down so they can keep themselves at this higher pedestal. Because in their minds, other people having the same rights and the same liberties and the same opportunities as them, that's oppression to them. Because all of a sudden, they're not a step above. Because when you've always been the top dog, equality looks and feels like oppression. And that's fucked up.
So, where we'll leave this off, following what she just said,
Oh, I'm not
if
done.
you don't have the courage, if you don't have the balls to at least realize and call yourself out for knowing that these two sides are not equal, and if you don't have the balls to stand up and say, "Oh, no, this isn't racist," or "This isn't the America that I wanted to." If you don't have the balls to say that, okay, at least have the balls to call it what it is. Call yourself a fucking racist. A
Or
misogynist.
a
Call
bigot,
at least
misogynist, whatever you want.
at least have the balls to at least say it.
Have the conviction to stand by your beliefs. If you feel these things, if you believe these things, then proudly proclaim them. Don't go out there and say, "Let's go, Brandon." Go out there and start screaming at children, fuck Joe Biden. Go ahead. Just say it. We're not afraid to say it. Why do you have to hide behind catchy little slogans? Because you're owning the libs? No, we think you're stupid. And guess what? Brandon?
Yeah.
OG Brandon thinks you're stupid too. Just for the record, in case you forget that part. And I think where I struggle as a patriotic American. Yeah, that's a shocker, isn't it? That I'm going to start saying that I'm a patriotic American. Is because I come from a military family. Both my grandfather, my father, he's a piece of shit. They were long time in the military. My father was in World War II. My grandfather was in World War II, and my father served in the Air Force for 25 years. So I grew up around that sort of thing. The idea that, you respect the flag, you stand for your country, all this sort of thing. Captain America is still one of my favorite superheroes. And I don't understand how these white supremacists, these awful, horrible people, can stand there and think that they are the embodiment of America. Because I was always taught that America is supposed to be the land of hopes and dreams, that you're supposed to bring people up, that you have a chance to come from nothing and better yourself.
America's the land of the free, but only their freedom.
But I guess that's my point. It's supposed to be for everybody. And I always believed it should be for everybody. So it's very difficult for me as somebody who cares very deeply about this country and the people who live here. Notice how I didn't say citizens. I said people who live here because that's two different things. My patriotism is I know the ideal of this country, what it is supposed to be and what it is supposed to represent. And I won't settle for watching the country turn into a misogynistic, homophobic, white supremacist land of shit.
Unless that's what the Constitution was made up from the very beginning.
And I acknowledge that white supremacy has been a thing in this country for as long as it's existed and even before.
The Constitution was written when we had slaves here.
I acknowledge all this. But I want to see the country be better. I want to see it get better. I want to see it change and do better. Whereas all these American flag waving yee-yees just want to see it stay the same and go back. And they somehow think that they're more patriotic than I am.
Or that they're outnumbered. They don't think about that. How vastly outnumbered they are. And I'm not meaning white people. I mean these sickos that are misogynistic and racist.
They are a minority.
They are a minority.
However,
they refuse to accept that. But guess what? You're a minority.
But it kind of goes back to the man thing. If you are just sitting by and watching it happen because, you don't say those things. You would never say those things. You're not going to do those things. But you are not actively doing something to stop those people from doing those things or to drown them out or to put your face out there and say, this isn't right. I won't stand for it. You are complicit. You are complicit and you are complacent. You are doing nothing to help anybody else. Because it's easy to sit back and be like, oh, did you see that protest? Or, oh, did you see this? Well, if you're able-bodied, get the fuck out there and march. And if you can't march, you talk about it. And if you can't talk about it, you can write a letter. You can do whatever you need to do, but get off your ass and fucking do something. Make an angry fucking podcast episode that 4 people will watch. But God damn it, at least we have the fucking conviction to stand by what we believe.
And you know what? If we had a bigger audience, this wouldn't have changed.
Yeah.
This episode
would not change. If anything, it would probably be angrier. And we'd probably go for longer and there'd be a live stream accompanying it.
Oh, yeah. You know what? I think there would be a live stream. In fact, we even have people to share those same opinions. Yeah. Because I know a little feisty white girl out there.
Jess, we're shouting you out again.
She would be she'd be a whole lot meaner than I would be.
Yeah.
And a whole lot more angrier. And she's like half my size too.
Yeah. And
I need to up my game to match Jessica.
Yeah, and that's the thing. It's like, stop sitting around and hoping everybody else fixes the problems. It's easy to do that. It's safe to do that. But that's not going to get us anywhere. No. And maybe it doesn't affect you today. Because when there were things about, segregation. Oh, well, it doesn't affect me. I'm not black. And then there were things about gay people. Well, it doesn't affect me. I'm not gay. And then there were things about women. Well, it doesn't affect me. I'm not a woman. Well, guess what? Eventually, it is going to be you. Unless, of course, you're a cisgendered, heterosexual, white Christian male.
Even then, even if they don't come out after them, you think that because you guys are attacking all these other people, that it's not going to affect you.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, it is.
Yeah, because
I don't know if you guys realize, but after a whole bunch of Americans said, you know what? I don't feel like working a shit ton of overtime hours and working my ass down to nothing and get paid shitty. I don't remember the last restaurant I've ever been to that had a full staff.
But
it's crazy, right? And then you have the audacity to complain about all these people. Oh my God, I went to this restaurant and I can't even get good service. You ain't paying those people correctly, so why would they be there to give you service?
Nobody wants to work anymore. Bullshit. People want to work, but they want to work and be able to live. Minimum wage is just for kid jobs. Bullshit. Minimum wage was established to be the minimum wage that somebody needed to earn to be able to afford to live, to have a house, to have a family, to be able to put food on the table, to live a good life. That's what that was for. It wasn't for kids. And guess what? When minimum wage was put forth, that was based on the fact that the man was working, the woman was staying home, and there were kids to take care of. And they own their homes. To do that is impossible on minimum wage. You can't even rent a place with 4 roommates if you're working minimum wage.
And for God's sake, if for the slightest reason somehow we got to people and they were like, you know what, let me take a step back and let me view everything with fresh eyes, and or if you realize, man, something is wrong, quit complaining about, well, you guys said that last time we had to vote and it all depended on it. It always depends on it. It never stops. You don't go one day into war and go, well, I fought a good fight. Guess the war's over. Guess what? It's going to continue the next day and the next day and the next day and probably a year from now and probably 3, 4, 5 years from now. It doesn't stop. That's what being alive means. Being alive means you have to fight every year. The Republicans never stop fighting. So when people, millennials our age and younger, they keep saying, oh, well, I voted. What happened? Why do I have to keep voting? Because it doesn't just end there. It didn't end with Obama. It didn't end with Trump. And it's not going to end with Joe Biden. It's not that easy. I wish it was that easy. I wish I just had to vote once, do my duty, and be like, okay, everything from now on is going to be fixed. It's not. And there's always going to be someone out there that's going to try to unfix it. Look where we are now. Even though Joe Biden is president, people below him are still trying to fuck up everything. And people who he has no power over, like, justice, are still trying to take over. And they're still trying to fuck everything up. So quit your fucking pansy ass talk about, oh, but I did vote. I did. Keep voting. Every year that there's a vote, go out there. Okay? I'm not saying vote this way or that way.
Oh, I'm gonna
fucking eyes.
I'm gonna say that.
No, because they need to open up their eyes.
They do. But I am gonna say to vote a certain way because everybody comes from me when I say fuck you if you're voting third party. Right. And I'm gonna continue to say that until such a time comes that one of the 2 major parties is not a threat to 75% of the country.
Is, what I want people to do is to open their fucking eyes and just do a little bit of research. It's not that hard. It doesn't take that much time to do some fucking research and know, okay, I should vote for this person. Okay, I should continue to vote. And next year and the year after that, continue to vote. Because there's always going to be people that are going to try and fuck with your shit. It never ends, unfortunately.
But
it never ends.
More than that. Yeah, you need to find a candidate that you want to vote for, but you need to look at the big picture. Because throwing your vote away on some piece of shit nobody that has no chance of winning, that doesn't do anything. All that does is take a vote away from somebody who maybe had a chance. Now, if we can manage to get these fucking crazy Republicans out of here, and it's safe. And it is a matter of safety at this point.
Yeah.
It is safe. I want to see third, fourth, fifth parties. I want
do.
to see
Yeah.
that. This country is not in a position for that to happen.
No, it's not.
Nobody more left than who we have now is going to win shit that matters. And that's just the harsh reality. And we need to get back to a fucking neutral before we can even consider bringing in a third party. And that's just the sad reality. And I look at the 2016 election for that. And don't blame third party voters. I'm going to blame third party voters. Because even if a tenth of those third party voters who had to vote their conscience had just fucking read the room, we wouldn't be having these conversations.
All these people would have probably never died.
But the problem is that people, I did my own research and I just need to satisfy my conscience. Fuck you. Good for your conscience. I hope you can sleep well at night, because I can't. I can't sleep well at night because I am so fucking overwhelmed with the shit going on around me and how it, yes, it affects me, but how it affects people I care about and how it affects my community and how it affects people I've never even met. I don't have the luxury of voting my conscience. Maybe one day I will. Maybe I'll get to say, you know what? I like this fourth party candidate. They have a shot.
Maybe in our lifetime we'll be able to see that again. Maybe.
Am I hopeful? No. But maybe. And I understand that that's a very unpopular opinion when it comes to voting. But you know what? I get it. There's better candidates out there than the Republican or the Democrat. Definitely better than the Republican. But read the room. Look at what is at stake right now. And that's the part of the research that people forget to do. And if more people did that, took the research to the next step, maybe we'd be in a better spot. Maybe.
So, I hope that this gets to people who need to hear it. If you think there's somebody who needs to hear this, by all means, send it their way.
Is this going to be the last time that we go off on a tangent? Absolutely not.
Because you want to know why? Because we don't stop fighting. Because we know that it doesn't matter who's in office, the fight still continues. Because until the point that there are not people out there that are trying to ruin lives, that are trying to tell women what to do, or that keep encouraging young white men to shoot up places, there's always going to be a fight to be had.
Yeah. When people's guns have more rights than people's, lives and bodies and, right to live, something's very wrong.